At first crack, they collect just like we did. I love you. We did that.
Indiana Borough Council to order. Normally we begin with a roll call, but I would like to begin first. As many of you know, Charles Mangus, who was the longtime chair of the Planning Commission for the borough, passed away the other day. And I'd like to observe a moment of silence for him. Thank you. And now, Laura, if you'll call the roll, please, because we will be voting tonight.
Here. DeBowser. Here. Ford. Present. Frick. Herring. Sarnicio. Lancaster. Here. Newell. Here. Steelman. Here. Taylor. 8 present.
We do have a quorum at least. Good. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda? The one thing we will not be needing an executive session tonight. That's listed on the agenda. This is a time for public comment. Only one person signed up. So
there's 2 names on there.
oh, there's 2. I'm sorry. One of you has such neat small handwriting that I overlooked it. Thought it was printed there. Yes, you.
Yeah. Is this on? Okay. Okay. Hi again. My name is Victor Thomas Black, and I am again submitting my name to fill the available seat for the Indiana Borough Council. As mentioned before, I am a proud lifelong member of this town and community. I show that pride in as many ways as I can. I organize monthly street sweeps to pick up and clean all of the litter on Philadelphia Street, an event in addition to the others that I have been doing for years. During every election season, I also volunteer and help out wherever needed, whether it be door-to-door canvassing, phone banking, literature drops, or setting up voter registration tables. I actively practice consistent communal activism on all fronts. I volunteer at festivals such as the Folk Festival, NAFF, and other events organized by locals. I have an extremely successful history of organizing my own events, both nightlife and daytime family-friendly events that garner hundreds of people in attendance. These people not only come to the events in which I host, but they then go to our surrounding businesses before, after, or during said events. One moment. Before, after, or during said events, which then stimulates our economy. Our events not only bring people to our town, but they render it a hot topic of conversation, thus attracting more attention that contributes to the growth that Indiana has seen over the past several years while surrounding areas dwindle. It is my hope that while continuing to contribute to this prosperity, that this beneficial impact catches on in other areas as we cement our role as trendsetters. These activities and events that are a direct result of my activism have become a guide and have set a precedent to other areas like ours, and we are now leading the way in areas we haven't seen before. Being granted this seat on council would permit me the ability to strongly represent from a position that would only further the growth of our town. And as always, all past promises and statements to council will remain true and standing. Our council should consist of the people we represent. It should be a very reflection of the people within our community. My seat on this council would be a direct example of said reflection. I represent multiple demographics of our town that are not currently seen on council. My seat would be a clear visual representation of the acceptance, encouragement, prosperity, and growth we are coming to know and love in our town. A representation that is needed not just 1 month of the year, but all year round, always. I pledge to fully dedicate and commit myself to this position, to this town, and to working with all of my fellow council members for every member of our community. Thank you again for your consideration.
I'm sorry, I can't quite read your last name. James. It was what I was reading, but I figured, no, that can't be right. But I've never seen that name before.
Out of move. No. Okay. All right, let me open this. Okay, So I'm James Pupley. I also go by JP. A lot of you don't know me because I've only lived in Indiana for about 2 years now. I enjoy our town extremely. Like, I love it here. I feel welcomed here, but all of that wouldn't be a thing without Kat, one of my really good friends. I struggle to feel comfortable in a lot of towns just because I know that there are people around me that do not support me and do not support what I'm doing with my life. So if you take a look around this room, you can probably pick somebody that looks like you or acts like you or has the same type of personality as you. But for people like me and Kat, we don't see that often. So I'm looking around this room and I don't see anybody with bright colored hair or a Thrasher bright colored hat. I don't see anyone with the same personality type as me. And that makes it really hard to be comfortable speaking to you all. I mean, I'm sure you all are great people and super nice and super sweet. But if any of you have dogs, then we definitely have something in common. I love my dog. But with Kat, I feel more comfortable speaking on things. And I feel like being a college town, it's really important that you guys have that community and have that place for somebody like me or somebody like my best friends here on the board so that we are able to advocate for ourselves. It's hard to just talk one-on-one with somebody because it's scary. And if you don't know them very well, then you are scared to talk to them. But right now, I don't see anybody here that I would feel super comfortable with, like, just going up to on the street and being like, hey, I'm going to come to the next council meeting and I want to talk to you guys about things. But knowing that Kat could possibly be on the board, I would feel so much more comfortable and so much better in the town. And I know that there are a lot of students here on campus that are planning to stay here in Indiana, like me and like my girlfriend over there. We do enjoy Indiana here so much. So we would like to stay here. She does a lot of volunteer opportunities here in Indiana. One of them that she brought up was the trash litter sweep. That is something that she started on her own, and that is something that I am extremely proud to be a part of. I've seen her do it alone. I've seen her do it with massive groups of people. But what really matters is that she would do it alone. Here in Indiana, there aren't a lot of people that we can like pair up with or match up with. So being able to do something like that alone is a very good representation of someone's character. She doesn't only bring her time to the county, but she also brings her confidence, her knowledge, and her kindness here. And I think having this person here on your council member would be the best opportunity for you as a college town. That's all. Thank you. I don't know how to turn this off. I might have turned it off.
I do want to point out that we will be voting on a new council person at the December council meeting, not tonight. We don't need an executive session, so now we're going to have a presentation on the zoning ordinance update project. And I will turn it over to you. Under the auspices of our planning department.
Okay, what's your preference? I'm more comfortable standing, I think. Okay. Can you all hear me? Okay, I can always be louder. But, so my name is Nick Fedorek, and I'm a senior community planner at Michael Baker International. With me is my colleague, Peter Quintanilla. He's the director of our design hub. And we're based out of Pittsburgh, and we're really excited to be working with Indiana Borough on the zoning ordinance update. A few months ago, the RFP was released. We were really excited. We have a lot of experience with kind of larger townships, boroughs of this size, and doing zoning ordinance. We have a lot of experience with kind of college towns, gown towns, where the university is a really integral part of the built environment and works with the community. And so, we thought this was really a great opportunity to take, your comprehensive plan, which we've also been following, just because, we're very involved in planning in Western Pennsylvania, and really start going towards the implementation. So we don't have a PowerPoint or anything. We're just going to kind of run this more conversationally. And we also know you have a budget, so try to be great. I just wanted to go over what the project is and what you can expect, and just open it up for questions. So we'll be working really closely with Trajan here. Trajan's been great at just getting us plugged into the planning. This is going to be a 16-month project. It's going to be guided by a steering committee. The steering committee will be assembled with the help of your local staff, your municipal staff, and we'll be talking about that steering committee and council, we expect will be working a lot together. And part of our job, as part of the scope, will be providing updates periodically throughout the project to let council know what is happening, what the progress is, what everything's looking like, what the deliverables are looking like. So it's probably not the first or it's probably not the last time you'll see it. We'll be doing some outreach and engagement on the zoning ordinance as well. We know you've done a lot of outreach and engagement on the comprehensive plan. And some of you might be saying, okay, get to the point. So we're actually going to spend more of our time just really reviewing the zoning ordinance. We understand there's some issues that staff would like to see addressed. We understand there's some concerns from the community about development, about standards, about preserving communities, about enhancing what makes Indiana, Indiana. We want to take all those into account. And so, our outreach and engagement is really going to be geared towards drilling down into actually getting an ordinance that works, doing intensive interviews with staff, figuring out what their problems are, figuring out how to better implement products. And we'd also like to involve the university and some of the university community. I think how exactly we do that is to be determined, and that's something we would work with you and your staff on accomplishing. We're pretty familiar with Indiana because we did the Wayne Avenue transportation study, which I don't know if you've ever seen that, but that really got our staff out here. And so, we have some momentum from that internally. And we're just really excited. We're anticipating 6 or 7 steering committee meetings over the 16-month timeline. And so those will happen periodically throughout the project, typically more in the front, and then the engagement also in the front, and with periodic engagement. So, sorry, I forgot to introduce Kathy. So on the Zoom is Kathy Gosling. She is part of our Harrisburg office, and she is also the former planner for the city of Erie. So she's bringing a lot of experience. She's our zoning lead, and she'll be getting really into the weeds with the technical components of some of these. So I think I just wanted to open this up for questions, or what you wanted to see in your any kind of concerns you might have.
Ask a question. Come on, guys.
Luke will ask.
Come to you though. Are you planning on actively seeking out feedback from specific stakeholders and demographic of stakeholders, not just one person, but like realtors, for example? I mean, what is your plan to get feedback from realtors, restaurant owners, individual? Again, I keep saying individual. I don't mean individual people. I mean a good representation of restaurant owners, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What is?
I know what you mean. It's a huge problem when you're doing any kind of public engagement, getting more than the people who show up to everything.
Right. So how do you intend to overcome that challenge of getting people to come to you?
So one thing we really like to do is we call it a pop-up, and we just meet people where they're at. And so this is something we were steering committee on exactly how we plan to do it. But we find that just showing up to, if you want a restaurant owner, we actually go door to door, apply at restaurants, and we go talk to the owners. We're working in the county, and we're up in the falls, literally just going door to door on the main streets. Talking to the guy who runs the guitar store, talking to the coffee shop people. So, we really do that face-to-face engagement, and we take that seriously. We also want to use existing, so there's a chamber of commerce or a business association. We work with the steering committee to get an in. We interview them, we take it very seriously, and we want to get more. We also don't use the public meeting. We'll do a town hall style meeting, but really, we kind of get the same people. So we try and go out, we try and walk the streets, we try and use existing organizations to break out of that job.
How long is that public input period of the 16 months?
So
Not that you would ignore someone, but at some point you got to put pen to paper, right?
Yeah, we tend to front load our engagement. So, we start talking, we start for steering committees, steering committee kind of helps us formulate a custom strategy to scale it to Indiana. And then that would take about 4 months, where engagement is open. We're doing stakeholder interviews, we're doing pop-ups, we're doing visioning. Peter here is great at, kind of live sketching. So if people want to see something and they can't quite like describe it in words, we have the capacity to do iPad drawings, just like right on the fly. So that takes about 4 months, and then we leave it open for, I think, Kathy, can you pull up the schedule on Zoom? We have it in.
Our audio, she might have a hard time hearing you because our audio. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Can you pull up the schedule?
It says I'm not able to do that. A host disabled participant screen sharing, so
Yeah, I
If it-
can show you the schedule.
I have it up, but if
Oh.
they could change that for me. Hold on. Okay, so can you see that now?
Yeah.
I guess we'll wait.
Thank you.
Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yes. For a long time. We tend to front load that, but we do leave the door open for a good part of the project.
Tammy, you had a question?
Council members, if we wanted to be included in some of these meetings or get to know more as you're going along and participate and be engaged, do you welcome that? How frequently do you meet, or do you include folks of the community on?
Yeah, so that's a good question. We have 5 steering committee meetings, or 6, including the final, penciled into the project. We can adjust that based on feedback from you and from the steering committee team. The way we typically operate is we'll provide periodic updates in the form of memos. If there's something specific that you're looking for, we could definitely add that in or tweak how we communicate, and then we're going to rely on Trajan, our municipal staff, to figure out the best way to do everything. Every place is a little bit different, so we don't come in here presuming that we have the best way.
Ask is because I know a handful of the council members and folks here have been involved in the community for years, and some of us have not. So that would give us an opportunity to become more involved and learn so much more, and just cohese better.
Yeah.
I have several more questions. If someone else has one, feel free to.
I have one question. I was curious whether your approach is going to be to look at revising our existing zoning ordinance or whether you're going to start from scratch.
So the RFP we responded to, kind of one, and from the pre-proposal meeting, what we're understanding is that there's more of a start from scratch. We may find that once we get into it, a lot of the zoning ordinance is actually working fine. It may be just the processes need to be tweaked, around it. So.
Good. Well, I like that answer.
Off of that, let's say you are reworking it and there is an area there where a different zoning, like an R1 to an R2, right? The line shifts. How do we rectify the fact that now someone may not be in the proper zone for what it is their property may be? How do you address that? And how do you deal with that moving forward?
Sure. So that's called a non-conforming use. That happens a lot. Typically what happens is they are just grandfathered into the existing ordinance. And then, that structure continues to exist without issue. That structure is demolished and then a new structure comes up that would be subject to the requirements of the zoning ordinance.
Not based on ownership, it would be based on the construction of the individual building. Okay.
Non-conforming uses are fairly common. I personally live in a non-conforming use. My whole block in Pittsburgh is non-conforming use.
Well, yeah, but the goal is to minimize it, right? Otherwise, why do you need a zoning ordinance? Just kind of make it up as you go, if everything can be non-conforming.
Yeah.
Right.
What we try to do is try to balance.
Right.
The vision for the future with the existing. I just moved down.
How's that sound? Okay.
We know he's going to keep going. So.
You got a question, I'll stop, I promise. Okay, would you say then it is incredibly important, since we have this giant blue thing in the middle of that map, that's the college campus, would you say it's incredibly important to understand what their long-term goals are? Incorporated within all of this?
I would definitely say so, yes, I would definitely agree, and that's part of what we put in the proposal is a strategy to coordinate with IUP. Look at some of the zoning adjacent, we understand there's a lot of outreach and engagement and discussion around those areas that was included in the comprehensive plan.
Just for clarity's sake, them telling us what the long-term goal is, say 10 years out, and what they want it to look like will be very important. Want to make sure. What's that lady's name we're supposed to call? Okay. Historically, we don't get that in. At least based on the conversation.
Now, IUP is engaged in the final stages of their long-term facilities plan. So that they have been working on this for themselves at the same time.
And as part of the literature review, which is included in the schedule, that involves reviewing those plans and incorporating them into the zoning ordinance.
How would you suggest handling projects that may be zoned differently when you're done, that haven't yet begun, or maybe in the planning stage? How would you suggest we approach that? Or is it is what it is, act under what you have until it's officially not what you have? Like, for example, somebody wanted to build a house or put in a business. Well, just pick on Dunkin' Donuts for a moment. They're already building, so it's too late. But let's just say that we didn't want Dunkin' Donuts to do what Dunkin' Donuts did. I did, for the record. But just to use them as an example, if after the zoning went through, they were, I'm just going to get real specific. For example, somebody on the planning commission wanted their building to be up against the street versus set back away from the street. So I'm getting really specific, but I can't think of a better example. So in that moment, if the new zoning would say, no, it has to be up against the street, but they're in the planning stages, how would you suggest we handle that? Or is it doesn't, how would you suggest we handle something like that?
Are you pointing to me? I can only see the back of you. Okay. When you point, it actually looks like you're pointing to the wall. So I'm assuming you're pointing to me. That's a really good question. So what would normally, I would hope would happen is someone in the borough knows that this development is being planned. And that's an opportunity to discuss with them. If depending on where you're at with the zoning project, discuss with them what changes are most likely to occur or what we're thinking about. So it's a very iterative process at that point, because these plans shouldn't happen in a vacuum. Someone, especially if it's a corporate entity like a Dunkin' Donuts, there's due diligence that's required by them to contact the borough, find out what the laws are on the books, get a point of contact. So if someone at the borough, if we certainly know that there's a plan in process and we're thinking of changing something that might impact that development, it would behoove us to reach out to them and have those discussions. So as you saw on the earlier screen that I shared, this is a 16-month process. It's very open and transparent. So I would be surprised if you get surprises like that development occurs and someone's not communicated with the borough or part of this process. Same with IUP. They should hopefully be bringing the borough into their master facilities plan. So you're abreast of what they're thinking. It shouldn't just be a plan that's put on your desk when it's completed, but it should be a process that you're involved in and should be aware of. And if it's not, we certainly want to get ahead of that and sit at the table and talk with the representatives who are designing that plan for them. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Good.
So also on the line, we have Seth Means. He's the senior planner. He's the former director of planning for Peters Township. This starts reading here. I'm the project manager, so my goal is very accessible. So I will do, and anything comes up, just email.
Thank you. I might add that as you proceed, you suggested, or actually, you suggested that IUP should be including us in their long-range master facility plan. They have not. They've invited us to public meetings, and I have attended. But they have not actually included us, as far as I know, in their planning process, so you might bear that in mind.
Thank you.
Gone through each committee, so we should be able to get through this quick. We're gonna start with page 37, and I thought we'd just do that, the budget at a glance. So right now, we'll talk about the general fund, and I'm happy to report if we accept this budget, it is without a tax increase. So if we can get through it, and then that will make a lot of people happy. So, oh, yes, I have copies here. Yeah, I printed. Does anybody else need a copy?
I started to print it and I stopped printing. That's enough.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Austin one too.
Thanks.
Oh, you fancy. Fancy stuff. I love it.
All right, just a quick review then. Page 37. So for the revenue, we made some adjustments. I just want to mention with the tax revenue, because of the assessments, people were appealing their assessments. Our tax revenue has actually gone down because of the assessments. But our earned income and our local service tax actually has went up, and our real estate transfers has went up. So when you look at all the revenues on top here, that consists of the 6,163,933. That's with a 6% increase from the budget of 2023. Are you seeing this, Peter?
That's not there.
At a glance, general fund at a glance is 38. It's okay.
You know, I think online it was both.
Yeah, sorry, I must have printed it from another page online. Okay, does everybody have it?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Expenditures, you'll see the different categories are there: admin, building and offices, police, code and zoning, planning, streets, parks. Again, when you look through there, only thing that has gone up is your personnel expense, obviously, due to increases in salaries. And I do want to point out with the police department, because of the police agreement that they have agreed to switching the hospitalization, and with management switching the hospitalization, it has saved the borough close to $200,000. So it was and there were some other items in the police contract that was agreed upon with the police union that also helped the budget. So as you can see there, the police, their budget only went up 2%. Some code and zoning, 4% increase. The biggest one you'll see is building and offices went up 17% because we did budgeted $400,000 for the the capital expense for additional work that needs done here with the borough that's not being covered from the loan and the line of credit from S&T. So
Question for raises or pay increases, is that annual for everybody or is that based upon their years of employment? How do you guys?
it's most of them are within the contract, the union, both police and management have contracts, so it's on the contractual obligation, and then management is yearly.
And then that's just based on review of
Yeah.
job performance
Right.
and stuff like that. Okay.
Yeah.
And does that just go through you or do you have assistants?
No, it
with
goes
that?
through the administration. Well, it goes through each department. It goes through, most of the departments have the union employees, so other than management, it goes through admin.
Or do you want to say them in the end?
Let me finish up real quick here and then we can cover general fund. So the overall in total expenditures was an increase of 4%, which I think is a great saying what each department has kept under budget, has maintained their budget throughout this whole year, has done a terrific job keeping within the budget to help us move forward into 2024. So that increase of 4%, I think is an excellent, going into 2024 for considering the increases that we had to pay just for contractual increases. So the overall, if you'd say your total expense and total revenue, it's a 3.4% over, leaving us short 216,000. So my recommendation would be to pull from the reserve, which we have 1.8 million in reserve, and pull to cover that 216,000 to balance the general fund budget.
Right underneath, right at the top of 38, interest earnings, what is that? Because it's significantly more in 2024.
Because we're finally getting a lot more interest in on our checking accounts. The interest rates have, yeah.
So
Yeah.
naturally it came up.
And yes, so we have some money markets and interest. Yes, they have. That's yeah. Anything on general fund? I can real quick move on to the, okay.
The debt service went up.
Yes, that's for the general fund, that's for the building, for M&T. Remember, it hasn't yet, but we're planning it for 2024. And remember, we increased the loan from $1 million to 1.5.
Yeah.
So.
That is accounting for the fact that a payment will be due at some point in point.
I can go real quick on again, the enterprises fund, fire protection, we have that is all through, the packet you have. Fire protection ended up with a balanced budget. Library has a balanced budget. Parking garage is short. We are short about 78,000 from a balanced budget. What we'll do, they have about a carryover of 250,000. So we'll use their reserve to balance that budget. Parking garage is looking up. Where we have made some cuts in expenses. Obviously, we had a PEO retire and we have not replaced that position yet. When we probably will not in 2024. We'll look down the road to see. The good news is one of the parking loans is done at the end of this year, so that helps moving forward in 2024. Shade Tree is a balanced budget of 18,000. Sewer operating. If you look at sewer operating, it's a $3.2 million budget and it is a imbalance. And one thing about sewer operating is all the loans, we have no debt right now in sewer operating, which is good. Both loans were paid off in 2023. So And plus, we're sitting on 1.8 million in reserve. So, but again, we have huge plans for the sewage operating. There's some big renovations and upgrades that need to be done. So that's good. We have that going into 2024. Sewer maintenance is a 16% increase. That's due to, we made some adjustments to the healthcare costs that we have to pay some wages and employees out of there. We have increased, and we'll be talking about this in January, the fee schedule for sewer maintenance. The highway fund, it did come under balance 60,000. I have to make up that, but it has 400,000 in reserve, so I can pull from that. And the recycle.
I'm not following along very well, or you're going really fast. Do you mind when you jump to a new section? Do you mind?
Okay. So if you look at
55.
yeah. So no, that's okay. These enterprise funds, and the good thing is they're very solvent. There's a lot of reserve in them, and it was kind of easy to balance the budget with those enterprise funds. And then recycling 75, again, that's a balanced budget. We did have to increase the garbage collection. Our garbage contract is up at the end of 2024, so we have to plan for that. So, and then you'll see at the end, we have some other smaller accounts, the street lighting account, which is an old account, and we used to have a street tax, utilities, that's where the police capital, the project fund in there, that's that ARP funding, and the police federal reserve, that's allocated just for certain funds, and Marcellus shell funds that we also have available that we use for either ADA work, or in the past we used it for a police car or going towards a police car.
When you refer to we have available, is that part of the 1.8 surplus, or is that separate from the 1.8?
For sewage.
Available.
For all funds with the 1.8 is just sewer. I think the 1.8 is just sewer operating.
We have a 1.8 surplus in the general budget, don't we?
In the general, yes, and 1.8 in sewage operating, yes.
So the 1.8 is just the general. There are some surpluses in each, in a variety of departments as well.
In the other reserve, in the other enterprise accounts.
It's not like you can just pull out of one willy-nilly, right? They can only be used for certain things and so forth.
You do have allocations from sewer operating, sewer maintenance for services that general fund performs. No. Yeah. So no, it's 2023, again, we get grants that has helped tremendously on a lot of stuff that we didn't have to spend, pay out of the borough's funds. I know the chief, they get a lot of police grants, ARP funding helped. So we did a lot in 2023, put a lot of money into the community with the ARP stuff that helped.
So these grants, do each department have employees that apply for them, or is it all Kyle?
No, it's all Kyle. Kyle will, if there is a grant available, he'll work with that individual applying for the grant.
And the chief in the actual area. Thank you.
And again, we can vote to advertise it. It will be on display in the office for any public wishing to come and look at it.
You have, I over budget at a glance? Like, is there, like some things, for example, personnel contract changed, right? So that means their pay structure changed, which then affects us being over budget, right? Like, I guess what I'm trying to say is, are you able to identify where the 216,000, and I don't mean $3 here, $10 there. I mean, would you say there's a couple of big picture items that would have driven that overage?
Here, like in, for instance, I just pulled it. There I have 2020, 2023, and then the change from 2024, and like an explanation of like, it comes after every department, so every department has one. Yeah, so if there's a big change in something, it's noted in here, like there's an increase because of.
Right, an obvious one. For parks is you didn't have fully staffed, now you've added staff, so your expense goes up, like that's like that kind of thing, right? That'd be a dramatic difference.
Yeah, like it went down, actually, this is public works, so we went from 191,000 to 107, and that was, for the health insurance, I pulled four people out, and then under police, it went because they switched to UPMC insurance.
So, okay, thank you.
For Nicole on budget. And the committee. That's what's coming up right now, but it's coming from the administration committee, which reviewed all of this. And the administration committee would like to move to advertise the proposed 2024 budget and 2024 tax ordinance fixing and levying the tax on real estate for the calendar year 2024. And that ordinance stays the same as last year, so no change in that. And that's coming from the committee. It does not need a second. No, this needs a second. This needs a second.
Budget, tax ordinance.
Oh, it does say it needs seconded. Did we not,
We ran out of time, so I don't think the motion ever made the minutes.
what, is there a second? There's a second. This requires a roll call vote. So. We'd advertise it, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Because we're now voting just to advertise this budget. This is not fixing this as the budget.
Yes.
Yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Frick, Herring,
Yes.
Cernisio, Lancaster,
Yes.
Newell, Steelman,
Yes.
9 yes.
Committee also has some other motions. They also need seconds. We move to adopt a resolution amending the management defined contribution pension plan and authorizing the borough manager to execute all agreements with Mission Square Retirement. I think that's in your packet. Is there a second? And this is also money, right? We need a roll call. Yes, yes.
Yes.
Herring, yes. Cernisio.
Lancaster,
Yes.
Newell, Steelman,
Yes.
Taylor, 9 yes.
Finally, also requiring a second, we have a motion to approve a lease agreement for 829 Water Street and authorize the borough manager, council president, and mayor to execute an agreement with Indiana County. this motion.
This question, Larry, I assume, is this just because of?
Using the property, setting up officially as borough use, correct? Okay.
We have to have on paper how we're gonna do it.
And we're paying the county, is it 9?
Formal.
They voted on it too.
We're going to be paying them for this, I guess. Probably do it. Yes,
Yes.
Yes. Taylor, 9 yes.
Now that we already voted on it, which doesn't say, it wouldn't make this invalid anyway. What happens if the building project goes along?
We're project goes along, it's a 1 year plus month to month. We built that in our contingency, I believe. Either side.
It's in agreement.
For 12 months, terminating January 1st, 2025.
Yeah, but if we read down, we won't, it's tough, but it talks about maybe termination. I don't know where it is exactly.
But I'll take your word. As long as it's in there, that's all I mean.
No.
Yeah.
We don't want it to happen.
But we know things can happen.
But I mean, I build things for a living.
Yeah.
No, it's covered. It goes month to month after that. Which even if it wasn't in there, it automatically goes month to month either way.
As long as we're covered.
and that takes care of the administration.
We met yesterday. I mean, usually the bigger report would be the beginning of December. We did vote to not have our meeting in December, the community development meeting in December. So if anyone else was gonna do that at their meeting, maybe they should remember to do that. So, I figured I'd throw it out there as a reminder. So I don't have anything else. Ben, you got anything that can wait, that couldn't wait?
Public safety, you do have.
Okay, I have a suggested motion. The recommendation is being made to extend a conditional offer of employment to eligible civil service candidate William Clement with a tentative date of hire being on or before January 15th, 2024.
Yes.
Initial employment will be contingent upon successful pre-employment screenings and related pre-employment requirements to achieve MPO ETC certification as a member of the Indiana Borough Police Department. The motion is move to extend a conditional offer of employment to William Clement for the position of police officer with a tentative hire date of on or before January 15th, 2024, contingent upon successful pre-employment requirements. This does not need a second. We approved of it in committee.
And he's got interested people here looking out for
Yeah.
him.
If you're not familiar with the name, and some of you on council may not be, but William's dad was a long-term member, and I think lieutenant was his high rank here with the Borough Police Department. And his dad, who's in the audience, and his mom, his dad had an exemplary record here with our department and all the changes that was made when they cleaned their house up. He worked heavily with Bill Sutton, and then when our Chief Shaw took over. So, and I think William has experience with Punxsutawney Police Department. So he's coming with us with not a total newbie. He's got experience, and he's the highest ranking person right now on our eligibility list, which is good.
Motion?
Yeah.
Extend an offer? Any discussion?
And this is because we had that resignation by Kennedy Allen. So it's covered in the budget.
Do we need a roll call for this?
I would just be saying,
All right,
put them on record. I want more to work.
yes.
Also, DeBowser.
Yes.
Ford.
Yes.
Frick, Herring. Yes. Cernisio, Lancaster, Noel, Steelman,
Yes.
Taylor, 9 yes.
And also, I was going to mention it without your prompting, Luke, our December 21st Thursday meeting on December 21st of public safety is canceled with the provision that if something tragic happened, we will meet, but otherwise it's not going to be on the books. We're not going to meet. And I'll have a full next week. Hey, that question? Of course.
I did forget one thing. Mars, can I just slip in real quick? The pet link, I'm gonna butcher the explanation, but if you get an email about a pet link, that's really good for public engagement for the comprehensive plan. So if you get something that says pet link, read the whole email. That's my plug. There you go. It is important. So please partake. Sorry, I forgot to say that.
We haven't had a public works meeting since our last report to the council, but we do have a suggested motion to, as we try with so many projects, to get a grant for the Parks Facility project. And I'm going to ask Nicole to explain a little bit more about the local share account specifically.
I was the one applying for it, so it's at the end, it's due at the end of the month. We just, yeah.
So the local share account is it's a statewide program through DCED. It uses gaming funds, AKA the tax revenue that is collected on casino games, games of chance, games of skill, whatever you want to refer to them as. And yeah, so it's a great program. It has no match. It has up to $1 million you can apply for. And it basically says, hey, do you think it's important? Okay, it's eligible. So it's probably one of the best grants we can apply for. We did it last year. We got our Gabion baskets on Marsh Run. That's how we got the funding for that. And this year we are going for the Parks Department facility, which would be I think that's 1190 School Street is the address. It's a dilapidated building that's being sold, and we can buy it and we can transform it into our Parks Department. So we've worked with Stifler McGraw. We have estimates, we have quotes, we have ideas. We just need funding. So fingers crossed.
We do not need a roll call vote. So is there other questions? Oh, it does need seconded. Okay, it's been seconded. Are there questions? Nope. In that case, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Anything else from Public Works? Have anything? Haven't met. Well, that would be. Nicole, do you have anything more?
I want to make, Dr. Perry's grad class from IUP has been working on municipal budgeting. And they met with me a couple of times and I sent them some of our information. And I met with the class just last Monday. And they would like to come on December 11th at 5 o'clock. Unfortunately, that's when their class time is. So their class is going to be here. If anybody could make it, it would be great. I know the students have been putting a lot of work into it. They took our budget and kind of made it fancy with graphs and stuff like that. So it was a nice learning experience for them. They had a lot of good questions. So they kind of want to present their work that they did throughout the semester. So if anybody's available to make it on December 11th at 5 o'clock, it'd be great if other people can attend. So, Mark, I'll send an email out. Yeah. 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 So, that's their class time. So that's when they can, be here. And then I do have a, announcement to make. Trajan Jones, our planner, if, you haven't heard or seen, NAACP has awarded him with the Young Achievement Award on Saturday. So he, had a really nice presentation given to him on Saturday, so he's very proud of his plaque and that, so I kind of want to, what was that?
Where did that take place?
The country club.
Okay. Yeah. we were
What's that?
invited. We were
Huh?
invited. Yeah, we went.
I don't think we were invited, but no, it was a post. I'll get, maybe we'll get a picture with him with his plaque. So I told him that he came up, showed me the plaque, so we're very proud of him. And he's doing a great job from this time he started here. So it's showing in the community and they're picking up on it. And then I just want to make an announcement too. You know, in December's work session, December's 19th, work session, we are going to have that because our bids for the building, we're going to have to vote on opening the bids. The bids are going to be open, but we're going to have to award the bids on December 19th in order to keep on this timeline. So sorry, everybody.
Any other item on the, anything else on the agenda? So we can be quick. Stop in and vote.
A question regarding that presentation the gentleman just did. He was saying something about how they're gonna look into and interview and oversee and do an evaluation of, isn't that what we were gonna look for Ariba to do?
No. That's zoning. Yeah, that's only zoning. They're redoing the zoning ordinance.
When I heard that, I was like, well, I thought we just, okay, thank you. for
Yeah.
clarification.
Yeah. And that they'll have a steering committee too, which I'm sure it was going to be planning commission and community development, but I'm not sure how those structured meetings are going to look. So
I must have set up the steering committee. Or wasn't that something we were supposed to ask them?
they're already on that. We've talked to them about it. So that's all I have.
Oh, yes.
Thanks for their presentation on at 5 to 6, 5 to 8. Do they have any idea?
They're just doing, like, there's 6 students and 1 student took a section of it, like one had parking, one had streets, you know, very small presentation, but they put a lot of time into it. So
Nicole?
Mr. President, thank you. First, like to thank Manager Cephas for her support during the budget process and for all the work that she's done. And I'd like to thank all members of council for their constant support, for your constant support of the police department. Also want to extend a thank you to Kennedy Allen, who was the police officer that we had for at least a little while, who's resigned and since moved. And I look forward to getting the police department back to full staff and getting Bill Clement on board. I just want to thank our community also for their patience and peace at the Wonderful Life Parade. The rain did not deter the rain did not appear to deter the joy of that day, and I'm glad and happy to report that it was a very nice parade, and all of our stakeholders were great partners to the borough and to the police, and I think it was a great representation of our community and one that will certainly drive more traffic to Indiana next year. Wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, and just a brief comment as we move into the Christmas and holiday season and we shop downtown. I just encourage everybody to come downtown and shop locally this year. And if you see something suspicious, report something suspicious immediately. The police department's out and about 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if we're not within arm's reach, we're certainly available in an instant by phone. So that's my only report for today.
The questions for the chief?
We're good. So they're not gonna, and look, let me say this, throughout this process, the county has been exceptional to work with. I mean, they really have been. I mean, there was no issues back and forth. I think, Nicole, and you know, you've dealt with Commissioner Keith, I know. I mean, it's been as easy as I think we could have hoped. And so I don't think it's gonna ever be an issue. They're not gonna come in and say, okay, it's up, get out. Cause that space is just not being used right now. It's former Judge Haber's office over in the annex, and it's been sitting empty for 2.5, 3 years. So I think they're happy to get a couple bucks over the next 12 months out of the deal, so. And I mean, what we're paying.
I mean, other than down here, we're gonna, it's fine.
The amount is very, very reasonable for what we're getting and what we're doing, so. It can be a better partner for us, so we appreciate that. Otherwise, I have nothing else.
Other questions for the solicitor?
Oh, I do have one other thing. I apologize. I have been in touch with our human resources consultant. The agreement was sent back to her. We are going to meet early next week to begin the process. So, that's where that is. She had a pre-planned vacation or trip. I don't want to call it vacation. She was out of town, pre-planned, with the Thanksgiving holiday. So we're going to meet early next week to get everything rolling on that end. Okay?
Thank you. I want to start by congratulating Councilwoman Frick on the new addition to her family. That makes the second time since I've been council president that we've had one of these.
And she didn't miss a meeting.
No.
That's even more impressive.
I had to change my wording here because I expected you not to be here, so. At the last council meeting, the fall election was still underway, so we didn't know the results. I appreciate all those who voted for me, and it's pleasant to know that my eyes are going, that we won't have to be learning a lot of new names come January. Betsy Sarnizo was duly sworn in by the mayor last Thursday. She had a pre-existing commitment for tonight, so she's not here, but she's already joined the Community Development Committee and was at their meeting last night. The members of the East Ward will be bringing at least one candidate forward for your consideration at the next meeting. Light Up Night was a big success in spite of the weather. The mayor and his wife looked quite dashing in their one-horse open sleigh.
It's Nelly. Whoa, Nelly.
Whoa, Nelly.
That was fun.
We can all look forward to several more weeks of festivities as the It's a Wonderful Life celebration continues. Now, let's go out and enjoy our Thanksgiving. And Mr. Mayor.
Well, speaking of swearing in, I just found out today, and I'm really excited about this from our K-9 unit. I'll be swearing in Scout on December 18th. So you may want to come to Ben Franklin School, which is a great idea with all the kids.
Yeah.
To swear in Scout. It's the 18th, December 18th, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that would be cool.
Like at 1:30.
Hey, we have one more piece of business, and that's the 2024 meeting schedule and an attendance policy. Oh, yes, you may ask me. I'm sorry.
Well, we gotta get letter or anything from the person in question that you guys were. I don't know if you have someone yet, but if you have someone to bring forward, would we be able to get some info to?
Not considered they are essentially the same people as last time, and their letters you should have seen before.
Okay, so it's.
Yeah.
There isn't, not, at least in this moment, not been someone new. Thank you.
So the schedule is that in the packet here?
There was no.
Well, we have a. We don't know what we're going to be doing next year. That's open question.
Yeah.
Suggestions.
About using their room over there, so which is
You were going
to it. Which is a good news. I totally forgot, and Peter actually said something, and Betsy said something about the where you vote over there, they have a big open room over there. So, and that's where they hold their meetings at, some meetings, planning meetings and that. So I'm hoping we can have our meetings there for council.
There will be one issue, and that's on election day.
Yeah.
We also meet on
And
election
we
day.
will meet on election day.
Yeah, so we may
That's
need
the
a
way we are.
temporary location, but
Maybe they'll be done by then.
but our meetings start before the polls close.
That too, but that's one meeting a year that would be bad.
About the schedule for next year, we had a couple of suggestions before.
Yeah, I think the one that was on the table was we have our first meeting as normal. That's what we got.
First meeting is required by law. That's set by law.
Where I'm talking about monthly, not just the January reorganization.
Haven't found it yet. Okay.
Tuesday was like they were combining stuff together, right?
The first meeting's a normal council meeting, just like any of the other ones.
Senate.
Mhm.
I happen to combine, I think, admin and community development, but
And community development, the other was public works, public safety combined.
yeah, with a suggestion of moving commissions to earlier on those specific days. I don't know if they set that schedule or if we set that on their behalf. I'm not sure on that one. But that would maximize any and all, like what, 2 evenings, you're getting, I mean, chock full of available information in that case. Yeah, again, this is have to be in community development than admin or whatever, like those are interchangeable, but that's just how I had it suggested.
For planning and community development to be back to back, same as Shade Tree and Public Works, it's the same folks. Trial and error.
Basically, whatever. I know that creates a challenge for public comment or feedback, but I thought a workaround for that may simply be to have a second public comment time at the end of the second committee meeting rather than at the beginning. That way, if the start time was in flex, for example, if they thought the meeting was gonna start at 8 and it started at 7:50 and they missed public comment, they still would have an opportunity to do their public comment because it would be at the end of the meeting. I realize it's not exactly perfect, but
Of a meeting if they wanted to be there at 8.
specific start time. It commences at the conclusion of the previous meeting.
Can you do that under the sunshine laws? Have like a, not a specific,
I don't know, the question.
I would think for that would be to
combine the committees?
6 and 7 or whatever. I mean, I'd make it shorter, like 6:30. And then that way, if your meeting runs a little bit long, people are there and you just say the meeting's running long.
Is there a purpose to maintaining the exact committees? Like, could they just be 2 committees?
Someone to drive that was the discussion last time, was keeping the chairs.
Yeah.
Then you only have 2 chairs who may or may not. It distributes the work, and that was, I mean, that was the only reason I think we talked about it, was to distribute the work. But yeah, I mean, to Pat's point, if you have it scheduled, I mean, then you can, it gives you a reason to stop the one meeting and wrap it up. But because I think what you want to avoid would be what the school board does, which is like people show up and hang out in the hall while they do their thing behind closed doors. Like that is generally frustrating to the public. So I think avoiding that situation would be ideal.
At least with Public Works, the chair is overly involved in.
Well, I think there was a little bit more to it also. It would be a specific point of contact to drive the community to as well. So rather than everything coming to the council president, right, you could direct it to the specific chair in that instance as a coordinator for different, they're the liaison in that moment, right? I think that would be another reason to maintain them Within the meeting itself, you're probably right, but I think outside of that exact meeting structure, it could be a more of a point of contact as well, right?
On different, I mean, I thought the idea is that we're combining them together. We have committee.
Yeah, everybody's gonna be at all of them, but and again, this is obviously subject to change. The idea behind it would be, for example, we showed up today and I'll just use, do we even have any committee chairs? Peter's the president, so he doesn't count. Who's Don? There we go. So for example, if this was Public Works would be the first, or Public Safety would be the first one. Yeah, right. Don would be leading that particular meeting as the driving force through that. Right, and then at the conclusion of that, essentially, because I think it was stated that it makes sense to gavel out, gavel in to a new meeting. Then essentially we would begin the next meeting, and so in that instance, Peter's the admin chair. So he would be, in which case, now, as an example, right, he would gavel in as running the next section of the meeting. That was the idea.
These things are going to change as of the first meeting in January. So we appoint chairs, committee chairs at the January meeting.
Structure now.
I think the downside to having a set time is that sometimes getting a meeting early and you're all sitting there for 20 minutes pulling your heels.
I could bring some homebrew and we could.
One at the end, that way, if it were to start early and they miss the early. I'm sorry.
Joint meeting. We've done it for admin and public works.
At 6 o'clock, the admin and public works will meet to discuss whatever they have to do.
I apologize. Oh, that was brought up and suggested not.
And then internally, you can divide your meeting. I mean, it doesn't have to be, a set time if you do it that way. I mean, it's up to you guys how you want to run it.
It makes most sense.
Has been filled, then we move to the
Right.
second purpose.
That's correct.
No, I don't disagree with you. That's where we started. Somebody disagree.
The whole public works the whole year long. People. All year long for public works.
I don't remember okay, so
I don't think it's gonna be an overwhelming.
Yeah.
Capacity that we're like, I
It
can't
depends
handle
on
all
the
the public
events,
comment.
too, but you have more staff people
We want
reporting at Public Works.
Yeah.
Where at Public Safety this year, we've had, with all the stuff that's been going on, we've had quite a few people come in. So
And
it all depends on what's going on and how
Yeah.
things are running.
I mean-
We can adjust.
The other option is community development and public safety together. And admin and public works together, which I actually think makes a little more sense because community development is the code and police. Maybe.
In first draft of this is, as I think, looking at it.
is having it.
Public safety.
Yeah, those were random placeholders for the record. I just stuck them together. Yeah. Yeah.
Seems reasonable just to have all the public comment at the beginning of both meetings.
Now, for the record,
Everybody's going.
I started there and people talked me out of it. So I don't remember why. Does anyone remember why? Because that is what I began with. And
Not here.
was brought up. I remember that phrase. So if no one remembers why, I'm totally fine going back the other way. That's fine.
Okay, I think
Yeah.
you need to realize too, this is a fluid thing. It's a new thing. And we just, what we used to do when I taught was monitor and adjust.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's totally fine. As long as no one remembers why we objected to it to begin with, then that's fine. We'll go back to that because that is where we started.
We have to advertise the meeting schedule for the year in January.
So
I mean, we could change it, but it's.
Say it's a combined meeting. That's perfect. That's fine with me. No argument.
If we were gonna do community development and public safety together, does that make more sense on a staff level as far as like how many people are here and time? Or,
Yeah, cause, but public safety, they've been bringing in like fire,
Mhm.
police,
Yeah.
And that meeting should maybe go first so that you're released from that, so you don't have to sit for the next one.
Yeah. Well, I mean.
That's best idea ever.
We're out of here. Community development's 2 staff, okay. Okay.
Then, yeah, public works, you have a lot more, and then with admin, public works and admin.
Does that make more sense on the staffing level to do it that way?
So the first meeting is, now the second and third meeting, these committee meetings, they're not voting meetings. I mean, they're voting to take to full council, then, right?
Yeah,
Well, this structure will be one voting meeting a month. Okay.
Well, yeah, we did that for a while.
It ran that way for a long time.
Session was not a voting meeting unless there was something special, in which case we had to go through the whole advertising thing. And then we decided to do that for all of them. But if we only are voting once a month, then if something comes up that needs action, we're kind of stuck.
You have to call a special meeting. and
You have to call a special.
Or you could advertise that meeting as a special meeting.
this, can the third meeting just be a voting, can we just say it's a voting meeting? Is that allowed if we're saying we're saying it's a committee?
Committee meetings are meetings of the whole. Yes. I don't see why we couldn't.
That might remedy that, because like Peter said, we do get these oddball things that come up, we'll be back on them in a timely manner.
You attending?
Yeah.
Oh, Lori's over there just figuring out what we're gonna do to her.
Right.
Asian, so I don't know, I'd have to see, someone could take care of my dad. Bring my father with me and he can sit here.
It's still Tuesdays. It's still the same Tuesday. It's still 2 meetings, still Tuesdays.
Making this, no, it makes more, if you're gonna have 2, it makes sense to be staggered. Let's say, could you make it the second Tuesday if that works better, but. Yeah, first, yeah. Well, I was just considering staffing that.
Then you're running into third and fourth, where maybe something has to get done.
No, I know what you mean. I was just trying to consider the staff and that, if it would have been easier in that case, but.
Anyways, whoever's public works, admin, like whoever, whatever committee you come to your committee meetings. I mean, staff knows that.
You said if we want to move the name of, public safety and community development, I think that's an easy edit.
Yeah, community development and public safety together.
Minutes, like you're still gonna have minutes for public safety, minutes for.
As usual. Well, it's a joint meeting. We usually do a joint, yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Well, it's one meeting. We do public works admin, we do joint, it says joint meeting at the top.
Or we can go back and forth between the 2 topics, or did you want to do them sequentially?
I think yeah.
And then it would be, the minutes would be easier to record then.
Easy to report.
From a transparency perspective. 2 sets of meetings that are logged in our online system separately. If someone's like, that sounds like it's a public safety thing, they don't have to go through, they go through half as many minutes to find it, basically to find the question. So when I say somebody, I probably mean like one of our staff members trying to find something.
So if we.
Yeah.
I don't mean to harp on this, but if it's considered one meeting, doesn't it have to be 1 set of minutes? You can write them in any way you want, but it would be 1 meeting's worth of minutes, right?
It one meeting, why are we considering it one meeting?
We didn't want to gavel in and gavel out because we didn't want to set a specific start time.
We don't need to set a specific time.
Time for the beginning of the meeting.
First meeting.
The first meeting.
The second meeting starts after.
We don't necessarily have to have a fixed time
Yeah.
for the change.
I'm not being, but
Right,
if the
you're
lawyer
gonna
and the
begin at
manager
7, you
support-
end at the end, and you're gonna have 2 meetings in that span. That's what I wrote. Like, okay, then.
Right, if you being right is all we're worried about, then cool, we're good.
I just wanted. Well, I felt like people didn't like it, which is fine, but then it feels like we landed on it. So it's like, well,
Well, because what's happening here, there's a little bit more clarity.
Everybody can. You get the fire guys out of here, the ambulance, you know.
These seats. And so the 8 of you that are going to be here,
2 meetings back to back. That's kind of what, okay. Sounds great. It's an excellent idea, you guys.
Yeah, like a double header.
So we should get 6?
No, 7.
Oh, okay, I thought I heard 6, I was like.
One starts when the other ends.
that's right.
Well, then, excuse me, go back to, do you still only want to do one public comment, or do you want to do one at the end in case people? Okay,
Do you want to have one at the end? I mean, that is one of the few things the school board does that is kind of nice, because people can respond to something that happens in the meeting, which is useful, instead of having to come back to the next time we meet.
and if somebody tries to time the second meeting and they miss public comment, I don't know, it'd be a way to try to alleviate that frustration for someone. And
As long as it's advertised, but
The only drawback I see to that is and on, and it's already almost 9 o'clock when it starts.
And I think we'll have to.
I'm gonna be very hungry.
Right now, in public comment at the committees, they come to the table, they sit and they kind of go like.
yeah.
And that's not going to be possible.
Well, to be more structured.
Also, are we gonna allow people to speak at the beginning and the end? So then they say their piece and then we do our thing and then they come back and show us how to speak time.
Maybe. Yeah, that's the idea.
Oh, it is, okay.
And I don't, it's not for shopping. Hey, we don't respond to them when they speak, so. Yes.
I mean, it's simply about having to maintain the number of opportunity, because somebody shows up doesn't mean they shouldn't be able to, right? You know, and that would be the theory behind that, is it's still the same number of public comment opportunities.
Limit the rebuttal period to the 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, cause I know in your committee structure, it's a little bit more open-ended, give and take on the first end. But on the rebuttal, you could say, look, our closing is going to be 3 minutes, 2 minutes, whatever you want to give them. You don't have to give them all night.
Document have to be drawn up. We have to make it official.
He needs to know the who and when and where. So it can be put into the into the legal advertisement. Yeah, yeah. It'll say your regular council meetings are this day, this committee meetings this day, this committee meetings this day.
That simple. Okay, we don't need a resolution or anything like that.
No.
Okay.
Internal work operations of how you run it, that's up to you.
Now, do we dictate the commission's timing, or is that from them? Like with the shade tree, they meet at a certain time. Who picked that time?
Yeah, and they might not change. I mean, who knows?
Reason why, they may or may not do it, in other words, okay.
Planning commission. Sounds like we have agreement on this.
Right against the wall, see what happens.
Okay. Vote to
I don't think. you need to-
sanctify this? I don't think so either.
As long as Nicole knows, you're gonna have to.
So Nicole's gonna have to.
You're gonna have to vote you're gonna have to vote in December to approve the advertisement.
Right,
So you have until the December meeting to figure it out so that you can then approve the advertisement at the December meeting.
right. And
And
it,
they'll have to vote to authorize you to advertise
Right.
for the 24 schedule.
and that would then have dates on it. and
Yeah.
so forth.
Yep.
How about in are we meeting that first in January, reconstruction?
To reorganize the first, well, but the first Monday is the first, isn't it? January 1st is a Monday.
But it's a holiday.
It's a holiday, so I believe you have to do it Tuesday, January 2nd.
Advertise that part of that schedule.
Yeah, that's the reorganizational meeting. But for you guys, it would also be your meeting.
No, not gonna be on the board in January. Do we need to come and do any like official? Okay, I didn't
No.
wanna miss something.
Or come and do public comment.
Really should zoom. That would be funny.
My other hip,
Oh, your other hip.
December 12th.
It's too bad you got two of them.
Yeah. There you go.
All right. So we agreed to that. The other item on our agenda is proposal for an attendance policy. Which,
Fairness, the proposal may be strong. It was more a list of thought points. I mean, truly, if you read it, I mean, I kind of typed my thoughts, okay? I mean, again, it kind of says it right there, but if you don't have it in front of you, I do think that, because I asked you this, Pat, about an attendance policy and in what mechanism someone would basically be deemed not doing their job on council to subject to removal. And I do believe that should be a hard thing to do, right? It shouldn't be arbitrary or partisan or any nonsense like that. You know, but genuinely speaking, if somebody is, you know, Gerald happened to remove himself, but if he was gone for 6 months, that puts burden on the other people. You know, quorum challenges, all those things. And so, who hasn't read this?
So you're counting each of those, the combined meetings as an individual?
Well, yeah, you don't have to get, well, I guess that's still what it is. So yes. 50 meetings is even, you're even better, you're even more glad you're not here, 60 meetings, but
Well, yeah,
2 a night, but
yeah, because I mean, I guess, because then, right, if you're at one and then you miss another one, like if they're basically double counting that. Like the 10.
right. And I made all the numbers bigger to account for that,
Yeah.
like, you know, because it's right. I mean, you miss 5 in 1 month if you don't show up, right? So I made all the numbers bigger to try to account for that.
Policy,
Yeah.
you know, somebody has, you know.
So you can seek approval. Down how you would seek approval is you send an email to both the president and the vice president prior to 5 PM the day of the meeting. I put the timing in for staff. If we're not gonna have quorum at a meeting, I'd want the staff to be able to not sit around with twiddling their thumbs, wasting their time. So that's why I thought of a timeline of day of. And in the president and vice president, basically you guys agree. I figured that way it eliminates any chance of the future of somebody ganging up on someone, right? 2 different people have to agree on it. And then if they didn't agree, then it would basically go to council. Again, we're talking about somebody possibly being removed. So I know that sounds ridiculous to come to here for an absence, but if it's going to count against you possibly being removed as your seat, I feel like that's a serious matter. So that's why I have that in there.
I thought that we already had, or is it just a commonality that it was, if you miss 3 consecutive meetings, that you're done, that you could, it's not official. Ah,
Yeah.
thank you. Sort of just a matter of.
Yeah, and obviously, these are, I mean, I even stated, not a comprehensive list, things considered valid. Somebody passed away, somebody got injured, somebody got sick. You have to care for a loved one who had any of these things happen. Last minute, your boss is sending you out of town, right? Those sorts of things you don't have a lot of control over. You shouldn't get fired to come to a council meeting, okay? I mean, I think everyone would agree with that. Again, I don't think though that would be considered, sorry.
No, I'm gonna wait till you're done, but I wanna be the first one to talk when he's done.
Okay, I am almost done. There's only a little bit left.
I know, yeah.
And so things that wouldn't be considered valid, Sporting events, vacation, I don't feel like coming. Reasons you don't share in advance. I mean, you could be affecting, people's schedules and what they're expecting to do, quorums, et cetera. I tell my employees this, an excuse I don't know about is a bad one, right? You can have the greatest reason at all to not show up to work. If you don't tell me what it is, you just didn't want to come in that day. And I think
When you say 15 or more meetings, does that mean they get 15 non-excused absences?
yes. I'd have to reread that section specifically. Basically, if you don't show up for 2 months, you're not automatically off. You would be open to the possibility of being removed. And if you just don't show up for 2 months straight and you haven't talked to us in 2 freaking months,
Or
I don't think that's
if you
unfair.
miss 3 months, but non-consecutive, right? That's the 15 would be like you missed January, March, and June.
Right, if you've just missed every other meeting for the entire year, you would be open to again, and it doesn't mean you are automatically by any means. It just means at that point, you would become eligible for.
Yeah, so to Peter, yeah.
Right.
So the missing ones are unexcused ones. So if you miss
Yeah.
a couple because you're sick or a family member. is sick,
The total may be in general. Because even if you have great reasons, if you never show up, you're still not here.
and that's an important.
And in perpetuity, I don't mean,
My point is the,
hang on, I gotta find the,
invalid reasons, sporting events. So if I have a child and she's a senior in high school and she's going to her state championship and her thing, which
Yeah.
my children would never be doing sporting events. Let me make that clear. If you know my kids, it would be theater. So that's an invalid one.
yes,
Or that's an invalid one.
you can miss 15 meetings. If you
Well-
have 1 or 2 sporting events in a given calendar year, you have not come anywhere near 15.
Right, I get that, but I mean, I think that cherry picking what is okay and what is not
Yeah, don't get me
okay.
wrong, I'm
You
not
know what
the
I mean? I
arbiter of
think-
what is excused or not, right? That is a joint decision. I was just throwing some examples.
Any reason that you do not provide notice for, I have been open and honest in our public safety commission, meetings about some mental health challenges.
Sure.
I don't always want to say, hey, council, I can't make it because I can't get out of bed.
You don't have to tell
So,
everyone, you have to tell the.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it might be better to just say, you're either at council and not, there are reasons that are valid to you, make it be not valid to me,
Well,
but
I'm
it's
not-
either, it should
You're
probably
misunderstanding
be.
my list.
No, I'm just
Just-
saying, I don't want to list.
Oh.
You're either absent or you're here. I get it sucks if somebody dies in your family and this guy didn't come because he went to vacation, but you know.
Sure, where that's gonna come into play is and I don't think it'll ever come into play with the number of absences you're talking about before this would kick in. But the person that has 14 absences and then his
And
wife,
then
his wife dies unexpectedly. Is that the guy you're gonna boot off? No, I don't think so. Not for that 15th, his 15th meeting he missed was because his wife died.
Right,
I think, or his child had cancer and was down at
Right.
Children's Hospital,
right.
or. You
But
know,
I mean, if all meetings give you sort of a ding if you miss them, then you wouldn't be missing for the things that don't matter.
Having to disclose anything about my life. Yeah, I don't ever give excuses for.
You're sick?
So
Okay.
Don't want to tell somebody something. Yeah.
About my stuff, but that's mine.
Hey, again, I'm not making this list on my own here. This was just a series of ideas, okay? If we don't want to have to give reasons and we want to change it to, like you said, I mean, it is what it is. That's fine.
I know the personality, whether it's.
case.
No, what I'm saying is, if we have a council member who obviously doesn't feel like doing it anymore. Just doesn't show up because, or trying to adjourn meetings ahead of time all the time. People that are here, I think genuinely will be here, and they're gonna make that commitment ahead of time, and they're just gonna follow through. If you're gonna go through an election process or a voting process to participate in this, most people are gonna do that, but there's gonna be, like I said, case by case scenario. Where there may be a person or two along the way, so yeah, we do need a precedent set for how to handle them if they just absolutely don't participate or fulfill their obligation.
Yeah, and all I'm thinking is, once you start saying case by case, now that's giving the president and vice president discretion. And I'm not saying politics would ever come into play, but, you know, well, I like Casey, so her reason for not being here is valid. I don't like Luke, no offense, Luke, I like you a lot, but I don't like Luke, so, and I'm saying this with a purpose. The Derry Area School Board voted out a member who they just did not like because he missed their quote unquote requisite number of meetings. But he was the rebel rouser. He was the guy that bitched about everything. And when they got the opportunity, it was done. He was out. See ya. And that was pure politics. And you don't want that here.
And I do think that having some sort of accountability to come to the meetings is important, but also the people who have the final say are the voters. And so as a council person, I know I'm not continuing on, but you are really active and we totally know what you do here on council. And I think people who aren't on council know.
But just as an example, what if someone were to ever move and not tell anyone, right? Get put in jail, just decide they don't want to. These are things that could happen, right?
But if you move and don't tell them, now you're in violation of Pennsylvania law because you're no longer a resident of this municipality.
We don't care. Right? I'm just saying.
Yeah, but are you gonna? Right.
Reasons? Okay, we can set, yeah. Well, it has to change the summit event because one of them's 10 consecutive without approval. So do you want 10, just literally leave them the same and just take out eligible reason versus non-eligible reason?
Or is it a number? Done.
Or opens you to be removed, not necessarily removed, right?
Not necessarily remove somebody.
In my world, there was eligible reasons for missing that people could use as mitigating circumstances. But if
Diagnosed with cancer and they're on all these treatments and we know, and they're still involved, but they've just missed this number of meetings, everybody would know and be like, oh, no, we're not gonna vote them out, they're still involved.
We did have a person like that on council for a while.
Yeah.
And we just knew she was going through treatment.
Sarah? You had something?
I thought I saw your hand. I'm sorry. Sarah.
the reason, Peter, is I guess there has to be a formal process, I would assume.
And I don't know what that would be.
Phrase that is, if you miss 10 consecutive meetings or 15 meetings within one 12-month cycle, there'll be a vote, essentially. It triggers a vote on whether or not you are removed for lack of duty.
To vote somebody out under those circumstances?
Right. You could.
Out of curiosity,
Well, if it's your internal policy, I believe it would.
Because
Because normally right now, the only way someone can be removed from this council is through an impeachment from the,
State Senate, right?
Right.
Yeah.
it's like they care. But how many did the Derry School Board have? Was it Derry School Board that voted off?
Yeah, well, I have to go back and look. I remember reading the article, but their number of misses was like 3. It was a very small number. And it was one of these policies that they put in to go after that person. So.
Well, I kind of like the idea of there being a list of what are valid reasons and non-valid reasons, because I think that has the potential to reduce political decisions. On the other hand, when the Derry case was 3 absences, and we're talking about 10 to 15 absences, it would be, but I don't quite like the idea of, well, somebody accumulates 10 absences, and then they have to do this kind of mea culpa explanation of why they missed those meetings. I'd rather have some outlines as this process goes forward, like for what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And I think the things that Luke set out are reasonable. I couldn't think of any more valid reasons than, Sharon, I mean, illness is illness. And, yeah, and I feel like that's something that people should always get a buy for. And no, you should not have to bring in a doctor's note.
To comment on Sharon's point, and in this structure, if it doesn't change at all, you still have the ability to not tell. And you still have
True. You have so many.
Now, in fairness, just for clarity, in case, this is written by the 2 meeting per committee night structure, right? So 10 consecutive meetings is 2 months, for the record. That was where the 10 came from. Okay, so you can get 5 misses in 1 month, just for clarity. Okay, so again, it can change, but that's how this was written with that in mind. Okay, so again, to go back to that, you do get a lot of misses. If you don't want to share, you certainly wouldn't ever be required to. It would simply be considered ineligible, which, by the way, if there is no such thing as eligible, it's also ineligible. So it is kind of ineligible either way. I guess the question would be, would you want someone the opportunity to offer an explanation that would get them a pass? I guess that's really the question.
So just,
You'd be able to say.
one, I would take work off the excused list.
It is.
No, you're
Short-term travel
no,
is
I would
on.
just take it off, take work excuses off the list of excused.
Sure.
Because if it adds up to 15, you should probably think about not being on council at that point, right? So I think, I mean, if it's truly an
That's fair.
emergency,
That's a good point. Yeah, yeah.
Like your illness or family illness or death, sure. If you want to go, but I would take work off that list. The second thing
Sure.
is that you are creating a slightly more complicated recording structure. Like if it's just 10 consecutive or 15 total for the year, that's like little tally marks, basically. If you're keeping track of excused, then someone has to track that.
Yeah.
Someone being the president, I assume.
That is a good point. Would that wouldn't have to be recorded in the minutes then, would it?
If a council member starts missing a lot of meetings, someone should speak to that council member and find out if they're going to be able to perform their duties as a council member, and if not, suggest they resign.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, in theory, if you're just not showing up and you've mailed it in, you're gonna resign beforehand. Or in the case of Josh, you knew he was moving, or Gerald, because of the scholarship thing he's gonna be doing. Right? That's the noble way to do it, if you will, right? Again, we don't know what everyone's gonna be doing. We don't know the next time this may change, right? Or who would be on council when it does. So I was trying to cover as much as I could with how I wrote it. Again, obviously subject to change. At one point, though, to go back to Casey and Sharon's privacy thing, if it is a officially recorded absence, would the reason, if we're going to say valid or invalid, would the reason for missing have to be recorded? It's just, well, actually, no, I mean that in a bad way, because then if you're not feeling well and you feel that a private situation is happening, it's in the minutes. Yeah.
I don't think you have to put the reason.
Okay.
I think they you had said to send it to president and vice president.
Yeah.
If they both say, good, when Lori calls the roll, Herring, president would say excused.
Okay, so I have a question, just along this.
That's for record keeping, you know.
Is crazy, but just bear with me for a second. So, if I was on council and I was to email the president and vice president and say, I'm not feeling well, would they be able to push back and say, well, I mean, how sick are you? And I'm like, I'm having a real mental health day here. No, hold on, wait for a second. I'm having a real mental health day here. And they're like, oh, okay, that's excused. Would those emails be FOIA available then? Right, that's kind of what I thought.
Yeah.
So now we've created paper trail that I may or may not want as an individual.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Tracking my various issues.
Very good.
I think we just give it, give it a number. Yeah.
It's a matter of when you create that paper trail, you know, you have a detractor on count in the community that doesn't like you. So they're going to, yeah, but what I'm saying is you come in and they say, I want every one of Councilwoman Colazzo's emails. Or I want every one of President Broad's emails. And now as I'm sifting through, I see, oh, there's one from Tammy Colazzo. It said that, you know, she had a hangnail and didn't come to the meeting. Here's one from Tammy Colazzo. It says that she was having a mental health day. So now I go into the public and say, Tammy Colazzo is crazy. Because she claimed she had a mental health day.
Well, that is transparent, and you are getting elected.
I'm with you.
Probably would like to know your performance if they voted you in.
But your house isn't there.
No,
It's not their business.
When I wrote it, it was in the spirit of it not going past the president and vice president.
But you can see how
Okay.
it varies.
But now, I mean, so, yeah. And but given the discussion of this, I'm,
We have 3 meetings a month, so then that's what, 2 months
Sorry.
is 6 meetings,
See you.
Have a good holiday.
not 10.
That's how you guys,
we'll see you, Jessica.
I thought you guys were gaveling in and out. I thought you were gaveling out for the meeting.
Yeah.
Double meeting then? Okay.
Numbers,
And then the doubled ups.
yes.
Yeah.
That's why the numbers are as big as they are. You'd have to miss 2 meetings, 2 months consecutively, or 3 months out of a calendar year.
And the other-
That's why I brought that up
But
for
you could
clarity.
also, you could decide that you don't care.
Meeting, I'm only missing 1 meeting, but if I miss a second meeting, I'm missing 2 meetings?
No, if you skip, so but think about it this way, if you decide you hate public safety. And public safety is second, right? So it goes community development and public safety. You could skip 12 public safeties, basically. And so you could skip all of those in a year and it wouldn't actually lead to your removal.
Dismissal.
So it
right.
gives you actually quite a bit of it gives you more flexibility when he's got it structured. Too.
We'll come up with a number.
It was a starting point, folks.
We don't have this in the form of a motion yet. We've had a very good discussion. I'm going to suggest that Luke or anyone else, but since you've done all this work already, could put it in the form of a motion and bring it to the council at a future meeting, like next meeting.
Sure.
Could vote on it. Okay. Anything else for the good of the order?
I have one other thing. You're welcome. I reached out to Josh Crasta and asked him if he was going to be covering the delinquent payment for the Pride event. And he said he was planning on doing that. This was yesterday. He told me that. So I wanted to pass it along. That's all I got. Wait, I'm kidding.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Didn't say fast. All right, good night. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you.
They're probably a little bit hectic.
Oh, they're
Maybe
hectic.
there's some moving-
That's
any
okay.
moving parts.
That's okay.
For us, it's nice now because OJ's